Last time on Sealed Only Sunday.
Yes. Do you guys remember that we now have a lot of Dragon Maids and Dragon support in general? Yeah, Dragon Link seems like the obvious place to go now. However, the version of Dragon Link we're gonna have to play, considering most of their good cards were banned, is kind of awkward. Oh boy! Star Liege Seafort! That's actually a really good card, and having more of those would be great, but I'm not complaining at one. Awesome, we actually got a good card. Well, we've officially hit the double digits. Welcome to Sealed Only Sunday, where, now for 10 weeks in a row, we've taken a crack at attempting to build a competitive mess of a deck that can hold up against our community. Unfortunately, it's gone just about as good as you expect, considering we're not in charge of a lot of it, but we're still going to keep going until we crack it. Last week, we actually ended on a 2-2 score, which is decent enough, I suppose, so we have a fair chunk of change going forward, but it's becoming very apparent that we're missing good endboard pieces that we simply do not have. Most of our combo kind of just exists by summoning Rocket Tracer and getting a Borreload Savage onto the field, because we don't have anything else. In the rare cases where we also have Quick Launch, we're able to do a lot more. We need a consistent way of going into literally anything. We need to have cards available to us that do something, right? Most of our combo starters don't do enough, and when they do something, it's one negate. It's better than what we've had before, because again, we actually do have a negate, and it's impactful enough, but we need to pick up more pieces that, you know, actually do well going both first and second. Going second so far has been an absolute pain. Yeah, I'm not gonna babble too much about it. Let's just add our weekly budget for this week, and let's head over to the store and hope that we get important pieces today. Well, here we are again, Todd. It's been a couple of days, hasn't it? All things considered, though, your display today is actually very interesting. Not only do we have two extremely good promotional products on show, we've also got a couple of extremely good packs we could pick from. Namely, Rise of the Duelist, of course, because, let's be honest, the staples available in ROTD is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, they're all super high rarities, making what I'm attempting to do a bit harder. On the other hand, though, the Megaton. The Megaton is absolutely crazy with value. Not only do we get some of the best promos ever gotten through Yu-Gi-Oh! Things like Nibiru, Dark Ruler No More, we could get Monster Reborn, which is a card we surprisingly don't have yet, but there's also Dual Power. Hear me out here. Dual Power actually has some of the cards that enable a little bit more of the stuff that we already have. Namely, in the Dual Power promos is a number 39 Utopia. If you remember a couple of episodes ago, we actually opened a Utopia the Lightning, which is a decent enough monster to summon given that only requires 2 level force. We have space in the extra deck to summon it. It may be worth going for. Not only that, but we also have stuff like Heavenly Spheres, which actually helps out our Dragon Link combos. We have all of the Ghost Girl hand traps and Infinite Impermanence. And we also have access to Utopia Double and Double or Nothing is in there. It's crazy. However, we do have the pact still ready, so let's see what the patrons wants us to do. Right, so the patrons have made their pick, and they've picked the 2019 tin, which is very unfortunate because that was not actually my target for this week. While the 2019 tins again host some of the most powerful support cards we can pick up that are generic, again, Nibiru, Dark Ruler No More, things like this, it doesn't bolster the actual strategy we're attempting to build. If we want to pick up things that will, you know, actually get us off the ground here, I think we're going to have to ignore the patrons for this episode and actually pick up a box of Dual Power. The reason we're doing this is because we really need access to things like Heavenly Spheres, and the hand traps would be absolutely golden. On top of that, that leaves us a decent enough budget for next week to hang on to, just in case we can find something that is more befitting, let's say. We're going to buy ourselves one box of Dual Power, open it up, hopefully get ourselves a challenge, and we're going to plan as well as we can for next week. Alright, with that out of the way, let's head over to the pack opener and see just what kind of improvements we can actually make with a set like Dual Power. Alright, it's time for 6 packs of Dual Power. Now keep in mind, our promos are already safe in our collection, the most important of which of course is being Utopia, but the other ones might make a show at some point, you never know. Right, let's dig into our 6 packs then. We're gonna start off with Lefty Driver, Saborg the Mega Monarch, Eternal Soul, Card of Demise, and Magician of Chaos. Not exactly what we were looking for here. Let's go for the second pack. Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, Draw of Fate, Thunder Dragon Thunstromech, Dark Cavalry, and number 39 Utopia Double. Utopia Double is actually a card we wanted to pick up, so I will happily take that. Pack number 3, Trickstar Magical Laurel, High Priestess of Prophecy, Arrowmage Jasmine, Elemental Hero Grand Merch, and the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode is a kaiju. It's not a necessarily very good kaiju, but it's a kaiju nonetheless. Pack number 4, Necros of Unicorn, Dark Cavalry, Arrowmage Jasmine, Trickstar Holly Angel, and a third Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, and now completing our playset of Ghost Bell. Interesting. Let's go for pack number 5 here. Eternal Soul, Thunder Dragon Thunstromech, Trickstar Foxglow Witch, Shining Draw, and Heretic Spheres. Let's go! That is exactly the card that we wanted to see today. That's awesome! Okay, so the next pack is just a for fun one. It will not end up mattering, I don't think, but let's give it a go here. Lefty Driver, Cyber Dragon Naxter, Tactical Exchanger, Dark Cavalry, and a second Spheres. Okay, not that I'm complaining, that's really interesting. Alright, you know what? Dual Power didn't really disappoint us. Unfortunately, we did not get a double or nothing, so Utopia Double isn't playable right now. But honestly, there is multiple sets where we could pick one of those up. Not only did we find the spheres, though, we actually got a playset of hand traps now. And to be honest, that's about as good as we can get, I think. Just being able to have 3 Ghost Bell should raise our consistency in dealing with our opponents a little bit. And also having a sphere mode is not inherently terrible. I'm perfectly okay with this. Alright, let's head over to the challenge board and pick ourselves a challenge of choice. And so we return yet again to the challenge board. This week we've got a couple of interesting ones here, but most of them seem incredibly difficult to get going. I swear it was a mistake, happens to me literally all the time because I suck ass at Yu-Gi-Oh! So that one is very attractive, let's say. Chain Gang is incredibly interesting because now we actually have things we can chain, meaning it might be easier to do than I thought. And honestly, for 10,000 years, happens surprisingly often for some reason. There's been a lot of duels that have gone up to turn 25 simply because, well, I've been playing freaking Aroma Jar for like 30 weeks, right? When I take a look at it here, I honestly think we're going to go for I swear it was a mistake, simply because I tend to screw things up literally all the time. And if I'm gonna screw up on purpose, you know, earn some money by screwing up, that sounds like a perfect deal for me. We're going to take I swear it was a mistake, and I'll see you all in the deck build. Alright then, game number 1 today. We're playing up against Coda, who's decided to play the best deck, baby, in sealed only form. As you know, I am completely horrible when it comes down to pendulum combos, so I'll simply choose not to try and name any of the cards that I have no clue what they're named, but rest assured, there are pendulum combos going on screen. On our turn, our hand is generally garbage, so we simply set 2, we normal summon our Safer going into the Rocket Tracer, because we do have the field spell in our hand from the beginning, which allows us to break it to go into Borreload Savage Dragon, unfortunately with no negate, because Coda taught me something that Quad Borreload Dragon actually has a use outside of being, you know, just a monster pop. You'll see me use that in a bit. He does attempt to go into his second magical Daybreaker here, which we immediately hit with a Solemn Strike, going into Predapon Verti Anaconda, which we also hit with a strike, forcing the pass turn. We do use our Cosmic Cyclone here to get rid of the Harmonizing Magician from the Pendulum Zone in order to prevent him from doing anything. We hope we punch him for 3,000, set a card, and we pass turn back again. Upstart Goblin is drawn, which he's going to activate going into Pot of Desires, which is probably the best top deck he could have gotten here. He is, however, forced to just set one and pass as we draw another Ghost Bell for turn, which unfortunately doesn't do us anything, so we're simply going for the punch using our Borreload Savage, and we pass turn again. He draws Spellbook of Secrets here, I believe it is, to get his blue boy so he can use the Spellbook of Knowledge from his hand, allowing him to draw 2 more cards, and Duelist Alliance. Duelist Alliance goes into Pendulum Call, but he scoops knowing he can get nothing out as he's out of Pendulum targets. Game number 2 doesn't go as smoothly as, again, pendulums are pendulums, and they're quite good. Servant Endymion goes into the Pendulum Scale, activating the Spellbook of Secrets, which is going to get him blue boy, which is going to not get Spellbook of Knowledge because it's in his hand again. Drawing it, the Time Gazer Magician and one of the Performapals that I can never remember the name of. Time Gazer Magician and Harmonizing Magician are both special summon, which brings up purple, whatever it is, Poison Magician, I think. Then Endymion, then Servant Endymion. You should know where this is going. Going into the Audax Vortex Dragon. I've never seen this as special summon 1, which goes into the Overlay Vortex Dragon, which goes into Selene. Selene is going to trigger, which triggers our Phantasme here in order to draw 2 cards and shuffle 1 back in again. It's going to go into the Vortex Dragon, which is the actual negate here, bringing back the Endymion thanks to the effects of Selene and Nibiru's 1 turn late. That's unfortunate. We're going to go for the special summon of our Parlor here, sending the changeover, activating changeover on Parlor, which is going to be negated by Endymion. Unfortunately for us, we go into the Striker Dragon, activating the Foolish Barrier to get Rocket Tracer into the graveyard to activate our Field Spell. Field Spell goes through as we go into Erratic Spheres, activating Rocket Tracer, which gets negated by Vortex Dragon. At this point, we normal summon our Nurse Dragomate, which allows us to bring back Parlor. Unfortunately here, I don't decide to go into anything bigger because I know that he'll be able to punch over it. We go in for the attack, but we're hit with the Magical Cylinder, unfortunately, which causes Lorepard to tag out again at the end of the battle phase. On this, we have to pass because we don't have another dragon target to summon, unfortunately, here. And the scales come back thanks to Duelist Alliance going into Pendulum Call. We are forced to attempt to make a bounce here, but he does negate it, unfortunately. We do get the secondary effect, which summons Router Dragon, tagging out our Parlor for Lorepar, which still gets beaten over by Endymion being 100 bigger. Kind of unfortunate, but we do get the Router Dragon effect here, but it is not going to matter because there are currently 2 negates on board, and we have 2 Playmakers. We go for attempting to activate the Field Spell, but we completely whiff on it getting negated. We attempt for the summon of Parlor in order to shuffle something back in order to get over one where we get negated with Vortex. And that's going to be a very good game 2 as we attempt to normal summon Rocket Synchron going into our Borreload Savage yet again. It is going to get 2 negates on it this time, but unfortunately for us, 0 Boros. 0 Boros is 200 bigger, meaning I should have been the smart person here and equipped something else, but you know, hindsight is 20/20 as the full combo goes off, and we already know that this is going to be game over as there is still a negate on the board. The Pendulum Summon goes through, Harmonizing Magician brings out another one. Our top deck for the turn, Ghost Bell. We summon the Rocket Tracer for the shenanigans, attempt to pop it. It is negated, and we'll scoop it up and go to game number 3. Game number 3 is an unfortunate one, to say the least here. We simply are forced to set 2 as we don't have any other play going on here, and Mr. Pendulum over here has his entire combo. It is incredibly sad, but as you can see, he can simply loop his entire deck, basically searching for everything that he needs in order to evoke the Pendulum. Penduluming for 4 with the Magician being 5 here, being able to basically pop off with no restriction whatsoever. There is not much we can do here. We attempt a Crackdown. It's going to do nothing because the effect still goes off, meaning we get Crackdown to hand. It's still overlaid. He goes into the Borreload Dragon, which is interesting, bringing out Vortex Dragon as well, punching into our Nurse, and then passing turn back to us, where we have nothing we can do to get over this. We fire off the House Dragon Maid. It is lowered. Can't beat over anything, and we scoop them up, and we go to game number 2. Game number 2, we're playing Behold the Fallout, aka Behold the God Tom, who is today deciding to play Infernoids, and I have a bad track record with Infernoids as it stands, because these guys tend to overpower me because, hey, negates are actually kind of bad. He's going into Decatron immediately, which we decide to Solemn Strike being the best time we can do it, which forces the Void to come out, special summoning the other Inferno that I never remember, so we bounce it back to hand so we can get the special summon off of our spheres to go into Router. Unfortunately, he has another one, so we are forced to use our Bottomless Trap Hole here, leaving him on nothing but a back row. Unfortunately for us, our top deck is Kitchen Dragon Maid, which doesn't really do much here, but we are able to go in for a clean 27, if nothing else. We then tag it back out for Parlor. Parlor's going to activate its effect to go for the Changeover, which we're going to use to bounce everything back to hand to prepare possibly the first use of House Dragon Maid ever. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately, he draws a Phantasme, which is interesting. We go for the Changeover immediately here, going for the House Dragon, normal summoning the Rocket Tracer, popping our Absolouter Dragon to bring out Silver Rocket Dragon. At this point, getting the effect of Absolouter, of course, going at a Quad Boral, but at this point, he hits us with the Phantasme. I'm going to regret that. We actually used the Quad Boral effect this time like Coda taught us, and what do you know, we now have a Borolo Dragon with one more negate on it. Fancy shit. Tom goes down to 1200, drawing another Infernity Void or whatever it is. We do negate it on activation to make sure he doesn't get anything, but he has a Lair of Darkness in hand, which is the worst possible case for us. He fusion summons into the Infernity Queen thing, dumping 3 Entis to pop our big boy, and that is very unfortunate. At this point, he chooses to banish the House Dragon Maid here, but we don't have a follow-up play to end the game because all we have is Rocket Synchron, and no matter what I summon here, we don't have a target for it. We're out of link targets, and we're out of synchros. So I simply decide to summon an attack and go, well, this was fun. Monster Gate gets activated using Lair of Darkness' effect to tribute our Rocket Synchron, and he finds a Phantasme. Great. Phantasme is going to be summoned as special summoning the Infernoid Queen that was sent to the graveyard. We attempt to Mirror Force, but of course it is negated. Lair of Darkness is going to summon 2 tokens here, and our top deck is a bottomless. That does nothing. We attempt to activate our field spell, and yeah, that's an unfortunate one. We go into game number 2 here, and our hand is looking slightly better. Not great, but it is at least a hand. We're going for the Rocket Tracer combo here immediately, going into Striker Dragon, which is met with another Phantasme, unfortunately, to fix his hand a little bit. We go for the Boot Sector launch, but first we go for the Dragon Ravine for the first time, pitching in earnest to pitch Galactic Spiral Dragon. We then go for the usual combo here of bringing back our Rocket Tracer, but this time also having Rocket Recharger available, which is kind of nice. Now that we have 2 Dark Dragons, we can summon our Galactic Spiral Dragon to bring out the Spheres. With the help of our Rocket Tracer, we can now also bring out the Borolo Savage Dragon to equip it with a negate, and we now have 2 interruptions on our board plus a bottomless, which is probably the best thing we can do. Terraform is going to come out, which brings out Lair of Darkness, and then putting Pot of Prosperity to the test, and he finds the worst card possible, Lava Golem. I was not expecting that, meaning now we have to fire everything we have to make sure the board state is as empty as possible, because we're going to lose both of our monsters anyway. We fire off everything to get the Phantasme back to hand, which sucks, but we are given a Lava Golem, and we put Absolouter Dragon to the test to grab a Rocket Synchron. At this point, he does attempt to go for the special summoning Infernoids again, but we do meet it with a bottomless trap hole as we keep our Lava Golem. Unfortunately, he decides to strike the Lava Golem, so we don't even have the damage on board anymore. That sucks. We go for the Rocket Synchron, which of course is going to bring out Absolouter Dragon, which we're going to use to go into Quad Boral Dragon. At this point, he meets us with the Phantasme again, which sucks as he grabs the Void Feast. We go for the Quad Boral effect here, pitching our Rocket Tracer to summon Rocket Tracer and our Repeater to go into our favorite card of all time, Winder. I really, really like Time Thieves. If I had more of them, I'd probably be playing them. We go for the effect at the top here in order to get a trap card, which we use to banish both himself and Lair of Darkness back to the deck, which fizzles the effect of Lilith. Thankfully for that, we steal another card, and it ends up being a spell card that draws us a card, which we simply set down, which ends up being a Solemn Strike. We beat over the Lilith, hoping nothing happens. He draws for turn, and he draws his Giga Man. We do get a spell card again. He does go in for the trade here, so we use the spell card to draw another card before the turn ends. It's probably the best we can do. Drawing a Rocket Tracer is not totally terrible here, but unfortunately we have no targets to use it with, so simply going for 1600 and we pass turn. Infernoid Queen comes into hand, but unfortunately does nothing there, so we are free to take another turn. As we draw Crackdown, we set Crackdown, attack for another 1600 and simply pass turn. At this point, here's where shit goes down. He flips open Void Feast, which is going to special summon one of the big Infernoids, which we're going to attempt to crack down. He's going to use the effect immediately to banish our Borolo Savage Dragon, to which we chain our Rocket Tracer in order to get rid of Crackdown, and specially summoning our Silver Rocket. This Solemn Strike deals with the second special summon of it, as we, for the first time ever, were allowed to overlay into Utopia into the Lightning to punch face for game. Game number 3, and this one's going to go to shit. We go for the quick launch here immediately, getting a Rocket Tracer, which is the best possible scenario as we only have one quick launch. Unfortunately, we are yet again met with a Phantasme. Here, we attempt to activate the effect of our Striker Dragon, but Yugioh Pro says, go fuck yourself, you're not allowed to win, and the sort of pop-up box that you get when it asks you if you want to activate the triggered effect doesn't appear. I don't have it in my hand, there's no reason for it not to, and due to this, I am not allowed to combo off, meaning we are wide open for the return. Thanks, Yugioh Pro. Now, this could be due to the fact that I'm not used to using Yugioh Pro these days. I'm used to using Omega, where it's much more clear what's going on, but I digress. Thanks to this, you could probably take a guess as to where this is going when Infernoids are free to do whatever the hell they want. Full combo goes off as he goes in for a massive chunk of damage. We attempt to crack down. Of course, that's negated. It will not end up mattering as we take half of our life points in damage. We pass turn to us. No matter what we do here, it does not matter, so we normal summon our Rocket Tracer, popping itself for the hell of it, bringing out Silver Rocket Dragon, overlaying it for the LP, going into battle phase, suiciding ourselves into something, activating our Rocket Recharges to bring back the Striker Dragon, then using Striker Dragon's effect to bring back Rocket Tracer, but hitting it with our own Ghost Bell, and in frustration, we scoop. And as if things could not get worse today, it turns out that Mothman, our sealed-only rival at this point, I suppose, has also lost too. I can't fucking believe it, but we are at the mercy once again to Sealed Only Zombie. You could probably know already by now how this is going to end. As Zombie World hits the field, Baladrock is summoned, and our entire hand is completely dead to Baladrock. We have nothing we can use. At this point, his card advantage is just way too high. We go for the Dragon Ravine. We attempt to send Galactic Spiral Dragon and Absolouter, going for the Absolouter summon, realizing there's nothing we can do because when we're negated we lose, so we just scoop them up and go game number 2. For game number 2, we have a slightly better chance here as we are able to do something, but not this turn. We simply set 2 and pass, hoping there's no retaliation as Zombie World is put, and he ends his turn without doing full combo. Interesting. We go ahead and activate our Galaxy Cyclone here to banish the Zombie World, going for our combo, but we're met with a Gamma, then we meet with a Bell that's met with another Gamma. So an interesting interaction here is the fact that Bell is negated happens, but Gamma in hand no longer has a target from the deck to summon to negate our Striker Dragon, so the negation actually goes through. Kind of interesting. We still do get to do our full combo here, going into Quad Boral Dragon, pitching our Nurse in order to get our boys back, going into the Borreload Savage, equipping it with the Quad Boral Dragon, passing turn because we don't want to attack either of them. He draws into Vampire Froline, which sucks. We are here going to use our Bottomless Trap Hole to force the Necrobolt Banshee summon. And that is met with another negate as he attempts to grab Zombie World again, but we don't let him. Rocket Tracer is going to destroy the Quad Boral Dragon so we can go into our Time Thief Winder once again, but we're met with Vampire Froline. Froline sucks here. We are just going to punch into it, not using our last negate, as we need to break any Zombie World that attempts to enter the field, so we're simply stuck behind an unbeatable wall for now. Time Thief Winder is going to steal a Glow Up Bloom, which is the worst card we could steal, as it allows him to special summon a zombie when Zombie World's up. He is going to attempt to punch into a Borreload Savage here, using Fleur's effect, but forgetting that we can negate the activation, and we actually take a game. Game number 3 is looking terrible, but we'll do what we can. Mothman is going to start off with the Necrobolt Banshee once again, going for the Zombie World, immediately activating Foolish Burial to send Glow Up Bloom to get the Baladrock on board, which is probably enough to deal with us. We're going for the Galaxy Cyclone here yet again, or Cosmic Cyclone, whatever it is, but we're then forced to set 2 as we can't do anything other than that. He simply sets 1, being unable to do anything else as we draw Dragon Shrine. Dragon Shrine will be activated to send Absolouter Dragon, of course. That is going to search us this, and we get ourselves the Nurse Dragon Maid. We link off into Spheres. We activate our big card here, going for the Rocket Tracer back from the graveyard, destroying our Boot Sector launch, going for another thing. We go into Time Thief Winder here because we don't have a Link monster in the graveyard, so I feel like that's better. We bash over Baladrock, and we steal a Cosmic Cyclone. He is going to normal summon the Shiranui Solitaire, which we are forced to bounce, and I go for the greed play here by throwing a card from my hand instead of throwing my Spheres, which I will end up regretting because he's going to punch over it, and at this point, it is looking bleak. If I destroy Mizuki, he's going to have a free special summon, but I am forced to do it, going in for the effect as well as I can. During the standby phase, I activate Time Thief Winder again, but I'm met with a Gamma, forcing me to tag him out, leaving me wide open for a retaliation attack. That is exactly what's going to happen as Solitaire gets flipped. We'd go for the Solemn Strike to stop it, but it won't end up mattering because we're met with the Mizuki effect to bring back Baladrock. We get Zombie Necronized, and that is just enough damage to end the game, so we scoop them up, and that's it. For the last game of today, it's a bye. We went 0-3 for the first time in the series history. Well, that was about as bad as I expected, to be perfectly honest. I don't know about this one, folks. I'm not exactly regretting making the transfer to All Dragon, because this means we're now officially sort of on our way to building what we need to build, and we have a long way to go, but at the very least, we've started, right? The machines are officially phased out of the deck, and that does bring problems of its own now that we know we don't really have a follow-up to the first turn. Our first turn is actually kind of good when it goes off. 2 pieces of interaction can do a lot to stop our opponents, and we noticed that it did, but we lose out the second we have to do turns 3 and 4. If our turn 1 isn't enough to just end the game, we don't have anything powerful enough to keep our deck going in the following grind game. That's definitely where we need to improve the deck first, before we start trying to improve our first or second turn. We do, for the first time ever, go with a complete washout, though. 0 and 3, we're not counting the bye for obvious reasons. It's still a win for our weekly rewards, but it's not a win in our books, right? It's just handed for free because we did terribly. We only earn ourselves a grand total of 100 DP this week, as we also failed our challenge. Needless to say, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for us to win the game this time around, and when it was rather clear, but I digress. 100 is what we take with us to next week, and next week, we are gonna have to start working on the grind game a little bit. We have super good starters, but we don't have anything other than that. We need either something in the extra deck that really packs a punch for the future turns, or just anything that sort of keeps us in the game, right? It's hard to explain, but I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. Regardless of that, I do hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, remember to leave a like and click the subscribe button, or if you feel so inclined, you can check out the Patreon and YouTube membership to support me creating content as I am still unemployed. As always, however, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I'll see you all next week, and remember to stay safe out there.